I used to think the worst kind of betrayal came from a lover. I was wrong. The real pain is when the very people who gave you life and raised you are the ones suffocating you with debts that aren't even in their names. I thought I was being strong by carrying everything on my shoulders, but turns out, to them, I was just a walking wallet. No thank yous, no looks of appreciation. Just cold texts at the end of every month, as if I were a bank clerk who missed a payment deadline. And if you're reading this, maybe you're wondering, how did someone like me let things go this far? My name is Evelyn Carter, I'm 28 years old, a financial advisor in Denver, Colorado. I know how to balance budgets, when to invest, and when to cut losses. I hold 3 professional certifications, have a stable job, and I bought a small apartment on my own at age 26. On paper, I'm the kind of daughter parents would be proud of, but reality is different. To them, I'm not a daughter, I'm a second income stream they never had to work for. I was the only one in the family who knew how to save. Back in high school, I worked part-time at a local grocery store, studying, helping out and collecting tips just to buy used textbooks. Meanwhile, my younger brother Jason, he's 30 now, was always called the undiscovered genius. He dropped out of college in his sophomore year because he lost his inspiration, then drifted through a series of odd jobs. Delivery driver, insurance sales, failed streamer. Until eventually, he moved back in with our parents, like he'd never left. And me? I graduated on a full scholarship and landed my first job at an investment firm right after turning 22. I moved into a small rental in the suburbs and started sending money home every month, first for groceries, then car repairs for Dad, later for utilities and finally for the mortgage. Every time my mom called, her voice was tired, full of weary emotion. "Evelyn, this month's been a bit tough. Could you send us a little early this time?" And I always did, no questions asked. I believed it was the right thing to do as a daughter. But the more I gave, the more I felt like I was pouring water into a bottomless bucket. Jason never changed. He sat at home all day, buying video games, ordering takeout, and complaining about how unfair life was. Meanwhile, I skipped vacations, canceled outings with friends, and even declined better health insurance just to keep sending money home. One day, I gently asked my mom, without accusing anyone, whether Jason had any plans to get a job. She sighed and gave the usual response. "He's trying. You don't understand the emotional pressure he's under." As for Dad, he never directly talked about money, but every time I visited, he would let slip some backhanded compliment. "Daughters make more money than men these days, lucky we've got Evelyn." It sounded like praise, but I knew what it meant. They didn't thank me, they assumed I should be doing it. I was the one with money. So, it was my duty. I used to think, what's wrong with helping family? And it's true. Nothing if it's actually helping. But when you become the default name every time a bill is due, when people remember you only when they need a wire transfer, that's no longer love. That's exploitation. I still remember that feeling, the first time I refused to send money to fix the old washing machine. My mom went silent for 2 days, then sent me a long 3-paragraph message. Not one word about how I was doing. Just guilt-laced sentences. "It's okay, I understand. You probably have your own life now and don't think about us anymore. I'm just a little sad, Evelyn." I stared at that message all afternoon, mind blank. I didn't reply right away. I knew if I did, I'd cave. I'd send the money. I'd feed the cycle again. That's when I began to realize I wasn't living for myself anymore. Every financial decision I made revolved around one question: how much will I have left if Mom suddenly calls? I skipped buying a plane ticket to visit my best friend's wedding in Seattle. I cut my evening yoga class. I even put off getting dental insurance. All for the sake of those mid-month calls from Mom, or those just borrowing a few $100 texts from Jason. I've never once heard Jason apologize, not once. He'd just text things like, "Need some money this month, can you send it early, I'm behind on stuff." No thank you, no how are you, just like I was an ATM with a be kind button. I'm great with numbers, I analyze corporate finances for a living. Yet it took me nearly a decade to realize I had let myself become an unlimited investment for my family while getting zero return. People say family is where you return to, but what if that home only calls you back when they need cash? What if they stay quiet when you succeed, but lash out when you refuse to help? I know the next chapter of this story won't be easy. I know there's going to be a breaking point, and maybe it's coming soon. But here, at the beginning, I want you to understand one thing. I didn't start with resentment. I started with kindness. And they smothered it with their blatant dependence. I don't know the exact moment Jason became the favorite child. Maybe it was the day he got into the state university before dropping out 2 years later. Maybe it was when he told Mom, "I need time to find myself." And she cried like he'd spoken some profound truth. I never got that kind of grace. Not a pat on the back when I got a scholarship, not a single congratulation when I got my first promotion. During dinner on my 25th birthday, the same week I became a senior financial advisor, my dad just said, "Wow, companies really do hire young people these days." Jason could throw away every opportunity and still remain their golden child, but the moment I declined one financial request, I was suddenly ungrateful. The rules in our house were never fair. But what makes me angrier is how long it took me to see that. Every holiday, every dinner conversation centered around Jason. Jason's thinking of learning coding. Jason just finished a great book. Jason has a new startup idea. And me? I was always sidelined, treated like an extra guest in the very home I helped save from foreclosure. One dinner, while we were all eating, my mom casually said something that stung more than she realized. "My daughter is smart, but Jason has that artistic soul no one truly understands." I nearly choked. Jason was sitting there, legs on the chair, glued to his phone. He had an artistic soul? Really? A man who hadn't kept a job longer than 3 months? My dad always played the calm father figure, but he never once stood up for me. The last time I asked if Jason could chip in for the electric bill since he's working again, Dad frowned. "Evelyn, you just don't understand the pressure of not finding your path yet." I wanted to scream. What about the pressure of silently supporting an entire family? What about staying up until 2 in the morning to finish reports for clients in New York? But I didn't. I still foolishly believed that if I just tried a little harder, they'd see me. That my sacrifices would be recognized. Jason wasn't just coddled, he was constantly excused. Last year, he took my mom's credit card without asking and spent nearly $1,200 on gaming equipment. When I found out, I thought surely my parents would be furious. But no. Mom just sighed. "He's probably stressed. Just needed something to relax." Relax? With someone else's money? With the money I had wired to her the day before? I remember not saying anything that day. I just stood up, grabbed my bag and left. Neither Jason nor my parents tried to stop me. Maybe to them, I was just a walking machine. And if that machine was overheating, then sure, let it rest for a bit. Every time I tried to speak up, they used their usual trick, flipping the script. "So now you're blaming your brother? Families should love each other, not keep score. If it's such a burden, then don't help." But still sent a money request the following week. I feel like I'm slowly sinking in a swamp of my own making. Fueled by silence. By never saying no. Jason was becoming more carefree by the day. He bought a Persian cat for nearly $600 and posted a picture online with the caption, "My baby." Meanwhile, I was debating whether to cut the TV service this month to cover my mom's medication. I don't know if Jason has ever felt guilty, but one thing I'm certain of, he's never felt responsible. Every mistake was blamed on a rough patch, mental pressure, or simply, "That's just how he is." One time, I came home after wrapping up a major project. I casually told Mom, "I got a bonus this month, so I'm planning a short weekend trip to Austin." She stopped rinsing the vegetables and turned to me like I'd just announced I was signing the house over to a stranger. What about the water bill from last month? And the gas? I already mentioned that. Jason's also been feeling unwell, not eating regularly. I laughed. Not the joyful kind, the kind you laugh when someone stabs one more time into a trust already rotted. I thought I'd take a little break, Mom. I'm sure you understand. Sure, you have your own life after all. That line again. As if I were selfish for wanting to spend my own money on myself. As if I were wrong for not refueling a car that's been running for years without maintenance. Jason was the golden child. The one allowed to fail without consequence, and I, Evelyn Carter, was the one expected to make up for all his mistakes. But every limit has its breaking point. And I was starting to feel the cracks. What I didn't know then was just how soon those cracks would split wide open. At first I thought it was temporary. One month, my parents fell behind on the electric bill because of some billing issue. The next month it was Mom's prescription that hadn't been approved by insurance. Then Jason accidentally dropped his phone and needed a new one to submit job applications. I still remember Mom's first words, when she brought up money. Just this once, Evelyn. I promise. A family shouldn't let you carry everything alone. I believed her. Like a kid still believing in Santa Claus. And like a well-laid trap, that promise never materialized. That one time quickly turned into 2, then 3, then 10. From electric bills to gas bills, then plumbing repairs. Eventually, every visit home came with a new bill, placed in front of me, accompanied by Mom's hopeful eyes, Dad's silent nod, and Jason's relieved sigh. I started feeling suffocated. When I first moved into my new apartment in downtown Denver, I had plans. Monthly savings deposits, dividend investments, a few trips a year. But those dreams quickly got replaced with recurring transfers. $120 for electricity, $180 for meds, $300 for roof repairs, and the peak? $950 monthly to help with the mortgage. No contracts, no repayment promises. Just one thing always present in those transactions: the unspoken expectation that I would keep giving. Because I always had. I used to think, if I don't help, who will? Then I realized, they didn't need anyone else. They had me. And I was drowning in that role without even knowing. Every month, Mom would call with a tearful voice. Evelyn, I'm sorry to bother you, but we're really struggling this month. And I, foolish as ever, would open my banking app, hit transfer, erase the notification of my shrinking balance. Jason stayed the same, no job, no plan. Lately, he even bought a new gaming chair and monitor worth over $1,000. I found the receipt while cleaning out my old room during a visit. When I asked, he shrugged. I need a comfortable setup to focus on job hunting. I couldn't believe it. He lived in my parents' house rent-free, while I, working 50 hours a week, had to cancel a trip to Chicago with friends because I couldn't afford the hotel. One Wednesday afternoon during an online meeting, I got a text from Dad. Evelyn, your mom says the washer broke, probably needs replacing. Can you check on that? No question if I had the money, no thank you for all the previous help, just a simple check on that. As if I were the family's 24/7 tech and finance support desk. I once thought I was strong because I could earn money. Now I see I was weak for not knowing how to say no. You know what's scary? One day I typed my banking password without even thinking. Because I was so used to logging in only to withdraw, never to build. I had planned to buy a new car, a Subaru Forester I'd had my eye on for years. But when I was ready to place the deposit, Mom called. Jason's got back pain, needs physical therapy, can you front us this month? I put the phone down, sat silently for 10 minutes. Then transferred the money. That car remained just a photo in my collection. Dad always kept a calm tone during calls. Don't overthink it, honey. Family's about helping one another. Everyone has a role, and you're just doing yours. A role? Then what's Jason's? What's Mom's? Is Dad's role just to stand by silently while I burn out? I've lost count of how many travel promo emails I've deleted from friends. I don't remember the last time I treated myself to a nice dinner. I wake up at 6 every morning, work until evening, then run errands, send money, respond to mom's texts. Honey, gas prices went up, we may need a bit more this month. What's worse is, none of them ever asked if I was okay. No one asked if I was tired, needed anything, or simply wanted to live for myself. Just once. I realized I wasn't their daughter anymore. I was their backup financial plan, their emergency fund, the one person they could always count on. Without ever saying thank you. One night I looked at my personal expense tracker, something I maintained monthly like second nature as a financial advisor, and I was stunned to see nearly 65% of my income over the past 10 months had gone to family support. I couldn't even remember the last time I bought something just because I wanted to. Not needed, not to help, just wanted. Simple, yet strangely luxurious. A quiet question formed in my mind, sharp as a knife to the throat. If I stopped paying, would they still keep me in their lives? I didn't know. But I was starting to want the answer, no matter how much it hurt. Because I was reaching my final limit. That Sunday afternoon, the sun was blazing, like someone had cranked the heat up to burn away whatever was left of me. I had just wrapped up a grueling week with 3 financial projects due before deadline. My left wrist still ached from too much typing. I should have been resting, sipping coffee, watching an old movie, but instead, I was standing at the doorstep of the house I once called home, holding a large grocery bag, rice, milk, meat, and the joint supplements Mom always asked for. All paid for with the money I had saved for a weekend getaway with friends. The moment I stepped into the house, I sensed something was off. There was no sound from the TV like usual, and no smell of anything cooking in the kitchen. My mom, Susan, sat on the sofa, arms crossed, eyes cold as ice. My dad, Charles, stood by the window, looking out with a tense face like he was bracing for a verdict. Jason slumped in a chair, phone in hand playing games, feet propped up on the table. I set the grocery bag down and said, trying to stay calm, "Mom, I bought enough food for the whole week, and I got the exact joint supplements you asked for." No one replied. Not a single word. Just a slight nod from Jason, eyes glued to his screen. Then Mom spoke, her voice sharp like a blade. "Sit down. We need to talk." I hesitated for a split second. My gut told me this wouldn't be a simple conversation. I pulled out a chair and sat down, spine straight, like I was facing a high-stakes client. Mom didn't sugarcoat it. "Your father and I have talked this through, we can't keep going like this." I frowned. "What do you mean? I'm still helping out." Dad cut in, voice tightly controlled. "We need you to take over the rest of the mortgage, all of it. Every month." I froze. Numbers rushed through my head like a financial report just landed in my inbox. The mortgage was over $1,400 a month. I'd already been covering nearly $900 monthly for over a year. Now they wanted me to pay it all? I looked at each of them, one by one. They weren't joking. No shrugs, no guilty looks. Just cold silence and looming expectation. I let out a hollow laugh, disbelief laced in my tone. "You mean I'm supposed to pay the entire mortgage? What about Jason?" Jason didn't even look up. "I can't right now. Besides, you're the one who makes money." I turned to Mom. I'd given enough. Almost 2/3 of my salary goes into this house every month. I have a life too. I can't keep doing this. Mom lifted her chin, eyes burning, voice sharp. "You live alone? No kids, no husband? What's the money for? This family is struggling. How can you be so selfish?" I stood up, my voice cracking with frustration. "Selfish? I gave up holidays, savings, even my own health to take care of this family. And now you call me selfish?" Jason smirked, eyes still on his screen. "Come on, sis, don't be dramatic. It's just money. You have it." I turned sharply to him, voice breaking. "What have you done for this house besides gaming and spending other people's money? Do you even know how many hours I work every month? Have you ever even tried applying for a job?" Mom jumped to her feet, pointing her finger at me. "Don't you dare insult your brother. He's trying. All you ever do is brag about what you've done." I stepped back, took a deep breath, fists clenched. No one in this house has ever thanked me. Not once. Dad stepped forward, his voice low and dull. "We're not here to thank each other. This is family. Everyone has to play their part." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that echoed through the still room. "Then what's my part now? Pay every single bill so everyone else can live comfortably while I tighten my belt?" Jason finally looked up, annoyed. "If you don't want to help, just say it. Stop acting like some saint." I turned away, unable to look at them a second longer. I grabbed the bag still sitting untouched on the table. No one stopped me, not a single one. But as I reached for the doorknob, Mom screamed behind me. "Get out, and don't ever come back if you walk through that door." I paused and turned around. Her eyes were blazing red, lips trembling with rage. I answered slowly and clearly. "That's the easiest thing I've ever done." Then I opened the door, walked out, and shut it behind me. That door closed behind me, but their voices still echoed. I didn't look back. Not once. And that was the moment I knew. I had crossed the line. I was no longer their burden bearer. No longer their walking wallet. There was only me now. Evelyn Carter, and the part of my life I had never truly lived. I moved into my new apartment on a cold morning in early March. The frost clung to the moving truck's windows, but I felt lighter than I had in years. Like I'd been carrying a backpack full of rocks and someone had finally told me I could set it down. My apartment wasn't big. One bedroom, a living room, an open kitchen, and a small balcony overlooking the south side of Denver. But it was mine. Every corner, every chair, every light was my choice. No heavy memories, no passive-aggressive sighs or guilt-laced tones from my mother. No Jason, lounging on the couch eating takeout I paid for. I remember that first night clearly. I sat on the floor, back against the wall, eating instant noodles, staring up at the clean white ceiling, and laughed. Not from joy. From shock. I couldn't believe I'd actually done it. I had left. I'd walked through the door my mother slammed shut behind me, with the words, "Get out, and don't ever come back." And I hadn't gone back. For the next 6 months, I didn't answer calls from my parents. I didn't reply to Jason's texts. I blocked all 3 on social media, changed my personal email, and canceled every auto payment I had set up for their bills. For the first time in years, every dollar I earned was mine. In the mornings, I woke up to pure silence. No early calls from Mom asking for transfers, no nagging about family financial pressure or duties of being a daughter. I brewed coffee, opened the window, let the breeze run through my hair. And no one could make me feel guilty for living like that. I started restructuring my life the same way I used to restructure clients' finances. I created a clear personal budget, reset my savings goals, and set aside a small fund each month just to spoil myself. A new dress, dinner at the Italian restaurant I'd missed 3 years ago, a weekend trip to Boulder. These small things, once luxuries, became declarations. I was no longer living in emotional debt. And most importantly, I wasn't afraid of silence anymore. 6 months ago, every phone buzz sent my heart racing. Every message from Mom felt like a ticking bomb. Now, I could mute notifications and toss my phone onto the couch without a second thought. I remember one Saturday, working at a cafe, when my screen lit up with an unknown number. My gut said it was someone from home. I didn't pick up. Simple as that. I wasn't the Evelyn I used to be, the one who spiraled into guilt at the slightest hint of Mom is upset. Now, I knew their sadness wasn't my fault. And if they fell into hardship from their own bad decisions, it wasn't my job to save them. Some nights, I lay on the sofa, watching the soft yellow light cast shadows on the ceiling, thinking about the years I'd been drained and felt stunned. I had lived in the shadow of a family that used love like a double-edged sword. And I never realized, when I started bleeding. One day, walking through the weekend market, I saw a woman about mom's age arguing loudly with her daughter about college fees. The girl looked around 20, exhausted, eyes red, and for a second, I saw myself 5 years ago. Clutching grocery bags, forcing a smile while the world cracked on my shoulders. I didn't step in, but I clenched my fist to keep from crying. Freedom doesn't arrive with fireworks. It shows up in small details. In the moment I open my fridge and know everything inside was bought with my own hands. Not with what was left after caring for others. In doing laundry at midnight without getting scolded. In the first full night's sleep I'd had in years. 6 months passed, and I finally started to feel normal. The kind of normal you hear about in fairy tales. A world where no one owes anyone, where love isn't traded for cash, and where you can just be. Without proving a damn thing. But that was also when the first call from the past came. A message from my father. Just 10 words. Evelyn, why haven't you transferred the mortgage payment this month? I stared at the screen, my blood freezing in my veins. They still thought I was just temporarily upset. That I would eventually come back, swipe my card and resume the old game. They still believed I was the Evelyn they could manipulate with tired lines about duty, respect, and responsibility. I didn't reply, not right away. I set the phone down on the table, poured myself a glass of red wine and stepped onto the balcony. The cool evening breeze brushed against my skin. I took a deep breath and smiled. Because I knew, this was only the beginning. My father's message still sat there, cold and indifferent, as if the past 6 months had never happened. Evelyn, why haven't you transferred the mortgage payment this month? No greeting, no checking in, not even a how are you, just a cleverly disguised command under the mask of concern. I stared at those words for a long time. Not out of shock, but pure fury. I had lived freely for 6 months, without being followed, without drowning in guilt, and with one line, the old darkness surged back as if it had never left. I didn't reply, not at that moment. But my mind had already started working. Just like it always did when something felt off in a client's financial report. A question sliced through my thoughts like a knife. If I stop paying, where will they get the money to cover the mortgage? The answer should have been simple. They'll figure it out themselves. But I knew my parents too well. Jason didn't even do the dishes, let alone earn a paycheck. I grabbed my laptop and searched for the email from the bank. The one I used to handle their mortgage payments for the past 2 years. My temples throbbed. My heart pounded as I typed Crawford Mortgage into the search bar. The name of their lending company. I called, and I swear, that call shattered every last illusion I had left. Hi, my name is Evelyn Carter. I used to assist with mortgage payments for the home at 1947 Elm Grove Street. I haven't been involved for a few months, but I'd like to check the account status. Is that possible? The representative verified my information. I heard the click of a keyboard, light hold music playing on the line. But all I could hear was dread. A few minutes later the rep returned, voice gentle but firm. Miss Carter, that mortgage account is currently delinquent. By over 8 months. I went numb. Did you say 8 months? Yes. The most recent payment was a small partial amount made about 7.5 months ago. Since then, there have been no full payments. They've received their final warning. If the account isn't brought current within the next 2 weeks, we'll initiate foreclosure proceedings. I sank back in my chair, eyes wide, mind spinning. 8 months? I had kept sending money through the 5th month. They told me it was for the house mortgage, and I wired it. No questions asked. So where did that money go? There was only one possibility: they pocketed it. My parents, the ones who preached morals, who shouted that I was ungrateful, who claimed family is about helping each other. They had taken my money. And didn't even use it for their own home. I didn't know if I felt hurt, angry, or just plain betrayed. Every emotion swirled in my chest, building into an unstoppable storm. I didn't call Mom. I didn't call Dad. I called Jason. It rang only 3 times before he answered. "You finally called, Mom's freaking out." I got straight to the point. "The money I sent. For months, where did it go?" Silence. Long and heavy. Not because he didn't understand, but because he didn't know what excuse to make up. I'll ask again. Where did my mortgage money go? "You're blowing this out of proportion. They needed it for other stuff too. And you're living like a princess in that fancy apartment, you wouldn't understand." "I live like a princess?" I snapped, voice shaking with rage. "And what do you all do, live off your sister's money and call it love?" Jason tried to regain control. "You know they're struggling, you pulled out when they needed you most. Now you're going to let us lose everything?" "I pulled out because you turned me into a bottomless wallet." I hung up before he could say another word. My grip on the phone was so tight I thought I might crush it. Less than 10 seconds later my mom called. I answered. "Evelyn, you don't understand. I know I was wrong not to explain, but at the time we needed meds, the roof was leaking." "Don't lie to me." I cut her off. My voice so cold it startled even me. "I sent that money for the mortgage. Do you know what they told me? The account is 8 months past due." "8 months, Mom." "Well, I skipped breakfast to send you more. Why would you do that?" She stayed silent. I continued, slow and deliberate, each word hammering into what little trust remained. "Don't ever call me a devoted daughter again. You turned your own child into the victim of your sad little play." Dad took the phone. His voice was pleading. "Sweetheart, we can talk this through. I'm sorry, I was wrong. But please, don't let the bank take the house. We'll lose everything." I laughed coldly. "Not we. That's your choice." "Me? I was just the ATM you all drained dry." I ended the call, blocked the number. I sat there, watching the balcony lights flicker in the night wind, feeling as if someone had scooped every organ out of my body. But beneath the fury, something else was rising. Clarity. Yes, I lost money. But what I would never lose again was myself. I didn't sleep at all that night. My phone buzzed non-stop with missed calls from Mom, texts from Dad, and a few self-righteous messages from Jason. Half angry, half smug, like I was the traitor who abandoned a drowning family. I read every line but didn't respond. I didn't cry. I didn't tremble. I just felt cold. A dry, hollow kind of cold that spread from my spine to the tips of my fingers. It wasn't pain anymore. It was complete detachment. The next morning I woke up early, made coffee and looked in the mirror. My face was stone still. Gone was the woman who used to agonize over whether she should send a few $100 more to her mom because Jason needed to see a doctor. Gone was the old Evelyn, the one who carried the whole family in silence, only to be tossed aside like a rag the moment she dared to breathe for herself. I hit the dial button. This time, I was the one making the call. Jason picked up first. His voice was groggy, like he'd just rolled out of bed at noon. "Why are you calling again? Mom's freaking out. The bank already called. If you're not going to help, then..." I cut him off, my voice steady and sharp as a blade. "I'm not calling to hear your drama, I'm calling to say one last thing. And after this, it's over." Jason went silent. I continued. "I contacted the bank." "I know. 8 months without a single payment? While you were still accepting money from me." "I'm not stupid, Jason. You're blowing this out of proportion. It's not just about that." "Shut up," I snapped, cutting him off for the first time in my life without a hint of guilt. "I don't need a reason. I don't need an excuse. I'm telling you this. From now on, I won't be sending another cent. Not today, not next month, never again." "You can't do that." "I can, and I will. It's time you all dealt with the consequences." I hung up, not giving him the chance to say another word. Less than 10 minutes later my mom called. I knew she would, and I knew the conversation would be ugly. But this time, I didn't avoid it. Evelyn, I'm sorry, but you don't understand how serious this is. If we lose the house, I'll. It's not that I don't understand, it's that I understand perfectly. For 3 years I drained myself to keep that house standing, while you pocketed the money. What are you saying? I'm not that kind of person. You're not? Then what happened to the money I sent every month? Why didn't it go to the bank? Why did I have to find out on my own instead of you telling me from the start? I just meant to borrow it for a while. I was going to pay it back. I laughed dryly. Pay it back? After all these years, you think I still believe in your later? I heard Dad's voice in the background, still trying to stay calm. Evelyn, I know this has gone too far, but now's not the time for blame. We need to stick together and get through this. No, Dad, there's no we anymore. From the moment you lied to me, used my money without asking, the ties were broken. You're overreacting. As a daughter, you should understand. Enough, I nearly shouted. Don't say another word about values, duty, or love. None of you have lived by any of it. I've stayed quiet long enough. I'm done. My mom choked up. So, you're really going to let us lose the house? I exhaled. Cold and steady. What is that house? A place where I only mattered when I pulled out my wallet? A place where I was called selfish for trying to hold on to a shred of freedom? If that's what it is, then yes. Let it be lost. I gave birth to you, raised you, gave you everything. You gave birth to me. Yes. But I've been raising this family for nearly a decade. I gave everything. My time, money, health, youth. And in the end, what did I get? Lies. Disrespect. No, Mom. Blood doesn't give you a license to exploit someone. Her voice suddenly turned angry. Fine. Then live with your decision. Don't expect to come back. Don't expect forgiveness. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. I don't need forgiveness from people who've never felt remorse. I hung up. No tears, no inner struggle, just silence, heavy and clear. 1 minute later, Jason texted me. You're ungrateful. You'll regret this. We gave you everything. I took a screenshot, not to reply, but to remember. To remind myself, I didn't make any of this up. They truly believed I was a walking ATM. An infinite resource. There was nothing left to say. Nothing left to prove. I had drawn the line, and for the first time, I was defending it, with everything I had left. I turned off my phone, got up, stepped onto the balcony. The late afternoon sun broke through a thin layer of clouds, casting light on my face. A gentle breeze. No more burdens. No more emotional debt. No more hollow apologies. Only me. Evelyn Carter, 28 years old. As free as if I'd just been born for the first time. 3 weeks have passed since that last call. I haven't answered a single message from my mom. I don't pick up when Dad's number flashes on my screen. Jason has gone silent after that final, bitter text, which I still keep, not out of guilt, but as a reminder to never let myself soften. I no longer wake up in the middle of the night to a buzzing phone. I don't feel anxiety checking my bank balance. Life is eerily quiet. As if I've slammed a door shut that even the strongest winds can't blow open again. But in that quiet, the questions slowly started creeping in. Was I too harsh? Did I do the right thing by cutting them off so cleanly, by letting them face the consequences in full? Family, however broken, warped, or flawed, was still the place I grew up. Still held a few memories of childhood, however few and far between. I wondered, was Mom crying? Was Dad ashamed? Did Jason finally realize he couldn't keep relying on others forever? I didn't know. What I did know was that if I went back, even once, it would all begin again. They would apologize, make promises, say they understood. But a few months later, I'd get the message again. We're short this month, can you help us out? And the cycle would reset. Back to square one. Back to Evelyn carrying the weight. Back to suffocating. It took me nearly 10 years to realize. Love doesn't mean unconditional sacrifice. Family is not a free pass to rob someone of their peace, without ever once looking inward. One Sunday afternoon, I walked through the park near my home, where people were flying kites, playing ball, walking their dogs. I sat on a bench, watching everyone around me, and suddenly, I laughed, because for the first time in a very long while, I didn't feel like I had to pay for this peace. I didn't have to ask anyone's permission. No more guilt. No more fear that someone would call just as I was enjoying myself and ruin everything with a cold sentence like, "Did you forget what your mom needs?" I was no longer in a world where my emotions always came second to someone else's needs. But there were still moments, when I got home and sat on my sofa under the warm yellow light, when I felt strangely empty. Not because I was lonely, I had friends, co-workers and healthy relationships beginning to grow, but because I had once loved the very people who hurt me. I had truly wanted them to get better. I had hoped that one day they would see me, not as a living ATM, but as a real human being, with a heart that could break. I don't blame them anymore. I just let go. One night, I sat down to journal. The first line I wrote was, "I forgive, not because they deserve it, but because I don't want to carry this anger anymore." I know now that forgiveness doesn't mean going back. It doesn't mean continuing to tolerate pain. Sometimes, forgiveness simply means putting down the knife so your own hand stops bleeding. I don't know what's become of the old house. Maybe they're scraping together money to catch up. Maybe they've already lost it. Maybe they're still trying to call me, message me, pull me back in. But this time, I'm no longer an easy target. I am Evelyn Carter, 28 years old. I was once exploited under the name of family. But I'm also the woman who dared to cut the cord, dared to walk away, dared to choose herself, even if it meant being called ungrateful. If you ask me whether I have regrets, yes, I do. I regret loving a family that didn't love me back. I regret staying silent for too long. I regret having to be shattered before I learned how to say no. But if you ask me whether I'm sorry, no, absolutely not. I didn't let myself continue breaking for people who didn't value me. I held on to the one thing that mattered most, my self-respect. And I believe that is the beginning of every good thing I deserve. This story doesn't end with a reunion or teary hugs. It's not a fairy tale, it's real life, where a young woman chose to live for herself after being drained to the core. And if you've made it this far, if you've ever been an Evelyn like me, I just want to say this. You are not cruel for protecting yourself. You're simply learning to love the right person. And that person, first and foremost, must be you. Evelyn's story is a painful but necessary wake-up call. Family ties are not a free pass to abuse someone's kindness. No matter the blood bond, no one has the right to turn you into a walking wallet, drowning you in guilt just to keep serving their needs. Evelyn's decision to walk away from the cycle of manipulation wasn't selfish. It was brave. Because sometimes real love begins when you choose yourself, not when you keep enduring a broken relationship. What do you think about Evelyn's decision? Was she too harsh, or was that the only way to protect herself? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel to keep exploring more powerful, emotional, real-life stories about family.